Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another amazing episode of the Steven Jarvis and Friends podcast. Today, I am talking about Jaws Revenge, which luckily I was asked to do this, or it was suggested to me to do Jaws 3D, which I did last week, and today I'm doing Jaws the Revenge. Pretty much the plot for this whole movie is that supposedly the shark or a shark in general can carry out revenge plots against one particular family, that being the Brody family. In the very beginning of the movie, Sean Brody is killed because how do you say it? Sean Brody's killed early on because the shark evidently sets a trap for him and rips his arm off. Well, then it comes back, gets him for the last time, and then it sinks the police boat that he's on, which is one of the weirdest openings to a Jaws movie ever. And we later find that Martin Brody passed away because of fear that the shark was going to come back, and it's literally just ludicrous the way they made this story of the movie. So then Ellen Brody, the mom, goes to the Bahamas with Michael Brody, who is now a ocean biographic person or something like that, oceanographer or something. And while they're studying stuff, Jake is down in like a submersible and all that. And while he's, going around, all of a sudden he sees a shark. Well, supposedly this is the shark that killed Sean and is now targeting the Brody family. I mean, it's really bad when you say it like that, because you honestly do think that the Brody family is being targeted by the shark. I mean, anyone after seeing Jaws 3 could have probably said, hey, stop making these movies. We don't need them anymore. But I digress. It's very shocking how much this movie kind of killed the franchise. Granted, you would get an Italian ripoff, which was called Jaws 5 or Cruel Jaws. But yeah, Jaws the Revenge is just, really not happy that, it went from Jaws 1, which is the greatest, to Jaws 2, and then Jaws 3 is kind of getting to the point where they get annoying, and then 4, or The Revenge, is absolutely the worst. You have a great cast in this, though. I mean, you have Lorraine Gray, who actually came out of retirement to reprise her role from the first 2 films, along with new cast members Lance Guest, Mario Van Peebles, Karen Young, and Michael Cain. And the focus is on now widowed Ellen Brody and her conviction that a great white shark is seeking revenge on her family, particularly when it kills her youngest son and follows her to the Bahamas. The film was made in less than 9 months. Production began in September 1986 so that the film could be released the following summer. Jaws the Revenge was shot on location in New England and in the Bahamas, completed on the Universal lot. As with the first 2 films, Martha's Vineyard was the location of the fictional Amity Island for the opening scenes. Delays caused by the mechanical sharks and the weather led to concerns about whether the release date would be met. Ultimately, some critics suggested that the rushed production compromised the quality of the film. The lowest grossing film of the franchise with only $51.9 million, it was universally lambasted by critics who criticized the story, acting, and effects. The film introduced the infamous tagline, "This time it's personal." It's really bad, and the ending alone is just horrible. Um, and uh, it's so bad that when when they get to the end of the movie, which later Michael gets attacked by the shark, and he tells his buddy, "Hey, don't tell my mother, don't tell anyone about this because, it will freak her out." Well, the secret comes out when on a banana boat, the shark or Jaws, whatever you want to call him, comes out of the water, attacks. I don't know if it was a friend of the Brodies or whatnot, or just a random parent or woman that was on the banana boat, but takes her off. Uh, Michael Brody's child is on this banana boat, which escapes unharmed. And Michael Brody's wife and, of course, Ellen see the attack. So, of course, Ellen's like, well, the sharks followed me here. I have to stop it. So it's pretty much turned into Halloween H2O, evidently. Um, but yeah, I mean, this movie literally couldn't be any more shitty than what it truly is. I mean, it's a good thing that if Roy Scheider was offered to be in this movie as Martin Brody again, that he turned it down. Good thing that Dennis Quaid, if he was ever asked to come back to play Michael Brody from Jaws 3, probably a good thing he turned it down. I feel so bad for Lorraine coming back and being Ellen Brody. Granted, I know they needed a Brody, but I mean, this movie should have never been made. Literally bottom of the barrel Jaws movie. And granted, it does have some good moments. It's just the plot is what kills this. A shark getting revenge on a family for killing 3 other sharks. I mean, you literally could have came up with a better story or just left it alone after the 3rd one. And and the ending, when they fight the shark, Jake, who is played by Mario Van Peebles, he gets attacked. In the original ending, he dies, but in the revised ending, he's heard calling for help, and he's seriously injured but still alive. It's so hard to do a good review of this movie, and there's people that have. I mean, there's other podcasters that have. It's really hard and trying to do it justice. And they actually used as it was actually used as the ending has footage from the original ending and also from this ending, where when she goes to impale the shark and it explodes, because evidently impaling a shark is going to cause it to explode. And you see, before she rams the shark, you see Martin Brody from the first one with the, smile, you son of a bitch ending. And that's pretty much it after all that. So it couldn't be any worse than what it is. But I mean, hey, They did a very good job. I think they could have done a better job, but you know, it is what it is, and I just think if people truly want to not see this movie, totally 100% understand that. It wasn't really done really well. The cast, like I said, included Lorraine, Lance Guest, who was in Halloween 2 as Jimmy the paramedic, is Michael Brody in this. Mario Van Peebles is Jake McKay. Karen Young as Carla Brody, the wife. Judy Barcy as Thea Brody. Michael Cain as Hoagie Newcombe. Lynn Whitfield as Louisa McKay. Mitchell Anderson as Sean Brody, Cedric Scott as Clarence, Charles Bowleg as William, Melvin Van Peebles, who is the father of Mario Van Peebles, as Mayor Jason Witherspoon, Mary Smith as Tiffany, Edna as Polly, Fritzy Jane Courtney as Mrs. Taft, Cyprin Doobie as Mayor Jim, Lee Fierro as Miss Kittner, William E. Marks as Deputy Lenny, Diane Hetfield as Miss Ferguson, Jay Mello, archive footage as young Sean Brody, Roy Scheider, archive footage / photo as Martin Brody. Development. As MCA Universal was going through a difficult period, its CEO, Sidney Sheinberg, saw that a third sequel to Jaws was likely to make a good profit following the commercial success of Jaws 3D, despite generally attracting negative reviews. Sheinberg also saw an opportunity to promote the Jaws ride at Universal Studios. The studio fast-tracked Jaws the Revenge into production in September 1986 so that it could be released the following summer. Steve D Genart, I think is how you say that, had been approached from Universal's head of production, Frank Price, about writing the script for Jaws 4, as it was then known as. His script, however, was shelved when Price resigned in September of '86 following the disappointing performance of Howard the Duck. Around this time, Sheinberg approached Joseph Sargent about directing the film. Sargent had worked with Lorraine Gray, or Gary, I think is how you say it, in 1973's The Marcus Nelson Murders, for which he won his first Directors Guild of America award. Indeed, Steven Spielberg cites this television film, which later spawned Kojak, as motivation for casting Gary as Ellen Brody in the original Jaws film. Besides the fact she was the wife of the studio's chief executive, Sidney Sheinberg, at the time. In regards to Revenge, Gary, I'll just say Gary, remarked in an interview, "I made a good deal on this film, but I didn't make as good a deal as I would have if I weren't married to Sid." In an interview with the Boston Herald, Sargent called Revenge a ticking bomb waiting to go off. Sid, president of MCA Incorporated, parent company of Universal Pictures, expects a miracle, and we're going to make it happen. Sargent got off a call from Sid in late September '86 asking him to direct the fourth Jaws movie with no script yet written. Said Sargent, "I didn't have time to laugh because Sid explained he wanted to do a quality picture about human beings. When he told me it's your baby, you produce and direct, I accepted." According to Sargent, Sid cut through all the slow lanes and got Jaws the Revenge off and running. In an '06 interview, Sargent stated that the premise was born out of a little bit of desperation to find something fresh to do with the shark. "We thought that maybe if we take a mystical point of view and go for a little bit of magic, we might be able to find something interesting enough to sit through." Sargent hired Michael D Guzman to write a script within 5 weeks, with the shooting script being completed during production. According to the writer, they had the bare bones of a story by October 19th of 1986, sorry. And by the 2nd November, they had a workable outline for the production team. The first draft was completed in mid-December, and the final draft of the screenplay was dated January 23rd, 1987, just 9 days before filming began in Edgartown. The film was developed under the working title Jaws 87, but by February of that year, the title Jaws Revenge was being used. The colon within the title is used by some sources, although the colon is not included in the film's opening credits or on the poster. The film has no continuation from Jaws 3D. In its predecessor, Mike is an engineer for SeaWorld, whereas in Jaws The Revenge, he is a marine research scientist. One of the Universal press releases for Jaws Revenge refers to this fourth movie in the series as the third film of the remarkable Jaws trilogy. The underwater chase scene between Mike and the shark in Revenge was lifted from an earlier screenplay draft to Jaws 3D. D Guzman's script featured a cameo by Matt Hooper, while the producers still hoped to recruit Richard Dreyfus to the project. It was proposed that Martin Brody would be the shark's first victim. When Roy Scheider was unavailable, Sargent reports that his character had been dead for 18 months when we enter the story and deal with Ellen Brody's emotional problem, her obsession with the death of another family member. For D Guzman, it is a story of obsession and fear. Whether what Ellen Brody has in her mind is true or not will be left up to the audience to decide. No statement is being made in that regard, but it's about any kind of fear so great and so strong that begins to take control of a human being's life. Yeah, you can already tell what the mindset of this movie was. Thank God that thank God thank God Roy Scheider and Richard Dreyfus turned this down. I feel bad for any actor that was attached to this because it's not a really horrible movie, but it's the plot is really bad. Uh so it's yeah. And like I said, Michael Cain is in this movie. Cain had mixed feelings about both the production and the final version. He thinks that it was a first for him to be involved with someone his own age in a film. He compares the relationship between two middle-aged people to the romance between two teenagers. Although disappointed not to be able to collect an Academy Award because of filming in the Bahamas, he was glad to be involved in the film. In the press release, he explains that it is a part of movie history. The original was one of the great all-time thrillers. I thought it might be nice to be mixed up with that. I like the script very much. However, Cain later claimed, I have never seen it, but by all accounts, it is terrible. However, I have seen the house that it built, and it is terrific. In his 1992 autobiography, What's It All About?, he says that the film will go down in my memory as the time when I won an Oscar, paid for a house, and had a great holiday. Not bad for a flop movie. Lance Guest, who is cast as Ellen Brody's oldest son, Mike, had originally dropped out of UCLA his sophomore year to appear in another sequel to a horror classic, Halloween 2. Karen Young played his wife, Carla. She commended the director's emphasis upon characterization, filming it was in New England and in the Bahamas. And yeah, it's really bad. I mean, they had a few different endings. One where Jake dies, the other one where he lives, but is seriously injured. But like I always say, the ending that always gets me is when she rams the boat, which surprisingly has a spear now, into the shark, and the shark explodes. And like me and my wife were watching it one night, and I said, "What, they put dynamite in the shark, or is the shark made of dynamite?" And it's it really was bad. I mean, it has an approval rating of 0 on Rotten Tomatoes with 41 reviews, with an average rating of 2.7 out of 10. Jaws: The Revenge is a sorry chapter in a once proud franchise. Oof. Yeah, I don't know how bad you could really do this, because I mean, Jaws 1 and 2 were the absolute best parts of this franchise. Jaws 3 kind of was a jump the shark moment, and this was, well, we jumped the shark, we might as well die it in the shark's mouth. And that's what really happened. And it shows in the movie. If you haven't seen it yet, go watch it. If you haven't seen any of the movies in the franchise, watch them all. I mean, they're on Peacock. Jaws 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I honestly think you'll like it for what it is. But as a Jaws movie, Jaws: Revenge should not be even in the same discussion. That's why I think they didn't name it Jaws 4, The Revenge. I think it was just supposed to be a Jaws in name, and then they just put the revenge to evidently sell us that a shark can have, human tendencies of trying to kill us. And, that is my review of Jaws: The Revenge, aka Jaws 4. I am gonna have a guest on the channel tonight, and that's gonna be a live stream at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, where I will be interviewing the main driving force behind Worthy Chaos Comics and their comic book, which can't remember the name of off the top of my head. I've read them. They're really good. And it's such a good thing to have independent people working on comics, even on movies or music or TV and all that. A lot better than some of the major studios. Also, I'm going to be releasing some blogs on the website, which is www.stephenjarvisandfriendspodcast.com. You'll go on there. You can see any of the podcasts that I've done, any of the episodes. But when the blogs come out, that'll be a joint venture with me and my wife. She'll do a few. I'll do a few. She's probably going to proofread all the ones I do, because let's be honest, I can't really write or type and make good sentences to save my life. And the first blog I will be doing is on Halloween and its effect on not only horror, but also the slasher genre that it would later become a part of with Halloween 2. So check that out. Also, check out this episode. Check out the live stream tonight. It will be live on Facebook through my group, which is Stephen Jarvis and Friends podcast group, I think it's called. Also, you can go on YouTube, which the YouTube channel is youtube.com/ and then the little @ thing, Steven Jarvis and Friends podcast. And when you go there, you'll be able to watch live stream tonight. I'll also be doing a Patreon where for $1 you get a shout out. For $3, which will be the second tier, you get a shout out and get to recommend a movie that I will review, or sports, as long as it ain't politics. And then the third tier, which is $5, you'll get the shout out, get to suggest me to review something, and you may possibly become a guest. You'll be entered in a drawing. If I pick your name, you come on the show and we talk about a movie that you want to pick or a TV show that you want to pick. We discuss it. We can even do a watch along with it. All right. Thank you so very much. We're at 73 subscribers. We're 27 away from 100. Let's keep going. Thank you so very much for watching. I love you all. I will see you at 6.